Story 1. Anything that flaps, such as birds, moths, and butterflies, is fascinating. I love most of them when they are still, but when they start flapping, I want to run away. Story 2. My sister is texting me. She only texts me to remind me that I have adult responsibilities to handle, and I can't run away from them. Story 3. Buying too much, the wrong type, or not enough food can lead to waste. One time, I bought dry beans to make chili at my brother's house and didn't realize they needed to soak. Another time, I needed cream cheese for buffalo chicken dip. Instead of going to another store, I purchased it at the store where I already was and ended up with 6 months' worth because it was on sale. Story 4. Pregnancy is a topic I surgically and permanently removed from my life years ago, but the thought and sometimes the reality of it is horrifying to me. Story 5. Transitioning into my mother or one of my grandmothers is a challenge. I am a late-blooming transgender woman, and one of the things we are told at the beginning of our journey is that you'll look just like your mother or grandmother. I must transition for my own well-being, but the thought of resembling any of my immediate female relatives is unacceptable, let alone adopting their personality traits. My mother was emotionally and verbally abusive for most of my life. It has only been since I came out to her a year and a half ago that she has eased her behavior. I suspect this change is due to societal attitudes. My younger sister was the worst person I had ever known until I went to college and met a few conservative roommates. I did not know my paternal grandmother well, but based on how my father turned out, I do not desire to emulate her. My maternal grandmother was not a good role model either. I love my transition so far and am committed to moving forward, but I truly do not want to end up like any of them. The thought of seeing my abuser's face in the mirror is unacceptable. Story 6. Anxiety and the constant fear of the next panic attack are debilitating mentally and physically. No one but my mom cares, and she cannot fully understand it no matter how I explain. It is also affecting my sleep. Story 7. I'm a bit scared to call people, even those I'm close with. I always feel like they are just going to shut me down, even though that has never actually happened. Story 8. I have a bunk bed at night, but it doesn't have a bottom bed. So I expect something large under my bed at night, specifically a monster rat from Five Nights at Candy's 3. Story 9. Dying alone at home, nobody notices or realizes it, while my dogs feast on my lifeless body. Story 10. Immortality and infinity. There is only so much to experience, and an eternal life in heaven only means a torture of endless repetition and boredom. Story 11. Taking my socks off is a challenge for me. Unless my feet are wet, I cannot keep them uncovered. Wearing socks is definitely preferred, but wrapping my feet in a blanket will work in an urgent situation. I can and have experienced panic attacks because of this. I have no trauma related to feet. Story 12. Water in video games like Morrowind and Skyrim is irrational not because they are video games, but because I have the construction set. I know for a fact what is in the water in those games. However, that doesn't seem to matter, as I still fear I might encounter something horrible. Story 13. Moths give me absolute shivers. It's like looking at an erratic creature with a shape that doesn't seem compatible with life. Animals shouldn't be black triangles. I'm sorry. Story 14. The world may stop making sense, and people may lose their ability to think critically, simply following hateful individuals to divert attention from their own pain. People may lose their empathy and turn away from building and creating life, instead actively pursuing the destruction of others. They may accept, endorse, and participate in dismantling traditions and disrespecting fellow human beings. Everyone seems to ask, what is in it for me? I understand. It is quite irrational. Story 15. I love nice grand biscuits. It's a bittersweet memory of mine. Story 16. Spiders. There are no venomous spiders in my country, and there is nothing to fear. Yet I irrationally panic when I see one, and my wife has to remove it for me. Once, while staying near a forest, a spider about the size of my hand appeared on the ceiling. I was so frightened that I had to go to the other side of the house and couldn't move until she took it outside. Story 17. That one day, my phone will autocorrect LOL to leave me alone, and I'll accidentally send it to everyone in my contact list. The horror. Story 18. I have a fear of touching dead invertebrates with my bare skin. I love live ones, though. I am also paranoid that when crossing the street, the person behind the wheel will accelerate when I am in front of them. When shopping in a store, I am worried I might accidentally steal something or be accused of stealing. Story 19. I have a specific irrational fear of receiving a 0 on assignments. I have never received a 0 on an assignment. I have occasionally failed assignments, but never one that I thought I understood. I am currently pursuing a course-based master's degree, and whenever I receive a grade notification, I panic at the possibility of getting a 0. I check the portal for my grade, and most of the time it's 100%. It then takes me about half an hour to relax. Achieving 100% isn't the accomplishment it seems to be. I have to review and revise my assignments multiple times to alleviate my fear of receiving a 0 before submitting them. Remember the episode of Scrubs with Michael J. Fox where he became an exceptional doctor due to his anxiety? I feel similar to that. Sometimes I would prefer to be a B student. Story 20. Space-like phenomena. Observing the night sky, viewing the moon, and looking at the sun through my sunglasses to see the strange ball of plasma that is so far away that I perceive it as it was 8 minutes and 20 seconds in the past. Gazing at Jupiter at night, I observe its bright in the sky. I imagine myself in the Boötes void. Space. Story 21. The diversity and variety of the gene pool on Earth may be extinguished by our greed and delusion. Story 22. I have this strange fear of paper cuts. I know they are small, but the thought of one happening makes me cringe every time. It is totally irrational, but I cannot shake it. Story 23. I imagine emerging in an alternate universe where my partner and I never met and fell in love. I wonder how I would reconnect with her and convince her that we are meant to be, without coming across as a complete psycho. Story 24. Stuff falling out of my pockets into storm drains. Despite it happening to me nearly 0 times, I still clutch my pockets in case my wallet suddenly leaps out. Story 25. Gravity reverses itself, and we all fall into the sky. It would require shattering a few laws of physics for this to happen, but when I look up at the sky for too long, I occasionally reach out for something to hold on to. Story 26. I live near a forest, and during winter it gets dark early. I fear that someone is in the forest and can see me, but I can't see them. The only thing that might be dangerous here is wild boars. However, I always feel like someone is watching me from the forest. Story 27. I finally got over this, but for years of my life, I had to look behind the door of every room I entered. I was afraid someone or something was hiding and would get me. Story 28. Being alone in a house at night always freaks me out. I worry I might see an animal or a person looking in through the windows. Story 29. Public speaking is challenging, especially when I am unexpectedly called upon to say a few words. Story 30. My fear is that my face will get infected by a flesh-eating fungus, and they will have to remove my eyes and nose. This happened to a man I saw in an episode of Ripley's Believe It or Not when I was a child, and it still terrifies me to this day. Story 31. I am concerned that my dryer or my house may catch fire in the middle of the night, and we could all be in danger before we realize what is happening due to smoke inhalation. Story 32. I am terrified of getting cancer. I have had this fear since childhood, and it has never left me. The fact that it can happen to anyone at any time and the many different types of cancer scare me greatly. What if I have it and don't know until it's too late? It is such a deadly disease, yet so common, and that frightens me deeply. I believe my fear stemmed from seeing my grandfather struggle with the illness. He suffered from multiple myeloma and another type of cancer later on, and it slowly took his life. Witnessing how it affected him and my family's grief made me terrified that it could happen to me one day. Any symptom I have, no matter how minor, makes me jump straight to the worst conclusion. It is very distressing. Story 33. If a person disappears from my line of sight and then reappears, there is a chance that it is a different, identical-looking person. Being classmates in high school with two separate pairs of identical twins who enjoyed playing pranks probably contributed to this perception. Story 34. Going to the zoo. I have an irrational fear that a lion or tiger might somehow escape its enclosure. Story 35. Someone turning off the lights when I am alone in a room. Also, people chasing me and someone grabbing my legs. My brother used to play fight with me and my sisters when we were younger. He would use barely any strength, yet we couldn't escape because of how strong he was. I guess I fear getting kidnapped due to how significantly stronger men are. Story 36. Swimming pools, especially indoor ones, make me uneasy. I have convinced myself that fish or sea creatures will emerge from the grates on the sides. The thought of going into a pool alone fills me with dread. I'm an adult, yet I will swim in the sea, where all sorts of monstrous creatures lurk beneath the surface. Story 37. My irrational fear is being lost in a vast, open ocean with no way to communicate or find land. The thought of being completely alone and at the mercy of nature really gets to me. Despite knowing how statistically improbable it is, the idea still sends shivers down my spine. Story 38. Giant humanoid statues and underwater statues. I also saw a 75-year-old get a facelift, and it was very startling. Story 39. This may sound strange, but I really dislike eating chicken. I have a strong aversion to it. Story 40. Whenever I clean my ears, even when I am alone, someone will open the door forcefully or bump into me, causing the cotton swab to go all the way in. Story 41. I am constantly afraid that I will be stuck in a room, like an elevator, all alone and no one will be there to help me. This fear amplifies when the door closes. Story 42. Vampires. It's not that I believe they exist. It's just that if they do, I won't be caught unprepared. Story 43. Strawberries, soda, and most sweets might sound ridiculous, but I have always feared to even touch them for some reason. Story 44. My current fear of the week is that if I put my hand under my pillows, I will touch a snake. Very fun. Story 45. I'm not really scared to die, maybe just a little because of the uncertainty, but I wonder what happens after death. Do we start over? Is it just nothingness? Do I really go to heaven? I also think about someone showing my parents a movie about everything I did in my life. They don't need that. Story 46. Loving a person deeply and then facing hurt from them can be overwhelming. Roosters can be intimidating. Just look into their eyes. Story 47. That I'll be taken to a labor camp soon. I admit that calling this irrational is a coping mechanism. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.